Here.
No April yet. Amber. Yes. And Liz.
Yes.
Any public participation?
We are live on YouTube, so there may be somebody watching us, but other than Tanya, who's participating as a manager and virtually, and Heather.
Okay. Next, need approval of the minutes, January 2026 regular board meeting. So I will need a motion.
I'll second.
Mark.
Yes.
Barb.
Yes.
Tina. Yes. Tabitha.
Yes.
Amber. Yes. And Liz.
Abstain. I wasn't
Okay.
here.
Okay, next, Lynn.
So correspondence, we have the public library fund for February is going to be just over $79,700. Just as a reminder for some context, that is roughly the amount that we pay in salaries every month. That doesn't include benefits and all, but that's the amount of wages. So PLF coming in essentially covers wages every month. The state is bringing in for its general revenues more than they had anticipated, 4.5% over what they anticipated. But of course, we are a line item now, so we do not get the benefit of that fluctuation. Although we're getting at the state level, the library fund is getting about 0.98% over what they had projected. So just again, so you can see the difference in the structure of how libraries are funded. We're not going up and down with the way the taxes are coming in. I'll pass this around. It was, a holiday time-ish thing, but Mount got a really nice little card from the patrons, thanking the staff for being the coolest library around. Couple of things from Ohio Library Council. Every year they do a library trustee workshop. That's on a Saturday. This year it's March 7th. They offer both in-person in Columbus and also virtual attendance. So if you're interested, the registration deadline is March 2nd for that. So you've got a couple of weeks to think about it. And also every year, with a couple of exceptions in the past, they do a regional trustee, either a dinner or a luncheon, and they've scheduled one for Thursday, April 9th from 11 to 1 at the Midpoint Library in Westchester. Again, if you're interested, please let me know. We have a manager meeting scheduled for that same time, so we may have to look at moving that manager meeting. We're not in a budget year, so there's not that kind of pressure, but I think it's very interesting to listen to what OLC is hearing about what's going on in the legislature, especially as we're looking at elections in November coming up and the whole tax reform thing. So if someone is able to go, and I know it's the middle of the day, let me know so we can get you registered. Otherwise, I'm just including the same legislation that we have been talking about in terms of taxes and possible implications for public libraries. There's no changes to House Bill 137 at this point. There are also no changes to letters E and F, House Bill 355 and House Bill 420. So kind of some slow progress on that. There has been talk, not by OLC necessarily, but by other state agencies and the governor about the proposed constitutional amendment for tax reform and how, they're now coming out with possible ramifications, because there is this amendment has no replacement revenue. They're looking at sales tax might have to go up to 17% or 20%, which is entirely unheard of, or income taxes would increase. And of course, the legislature is kind of hard to try and reform income taxes and reduce those, but they would have to find replacements somewhere. So if you're in conversations and you know people who are really pro this constitutional amendment, it's just a very dangerous thing in the form that it's in right now. One thing that is not mentioned on here, but has come up in some conversation, we received a reminder from Ohio Library Council about dealing with law enforcement that may enter a library premises. You know, we're not a Cleveland or a Minnesota or a San Francisco or, you know, but there are larger cities that, you know, their libraries have been places where law enforcement of various natures have come in and caused some trouble. So OLC has always provided some general guidance about what to do. So that's been shared with our staff. So there it is.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna move on to Miss Sarah in the financial report.
Appropriation summary report is the first one. I'm gonna compare December 2025 to January 2026. I'm looking at that middle column, that month-to-date expenditure. The first thing I talk about is salaries. In December, we paid retention awards, so I'm gonna take that 11,900 out of what I'm comparing. So we were down 2,634 for salaries. Employee benefits, we were up $457 and 88 cents. Library materials, we're down $8,123. January is a slow month to get started on buying things. Others, we were up $3,146.05. General month to date, we were down $19,054.50 compared to December. Not surprised because January, like I said, is slow to get started. Got to get all the things worked out. All funds, we were also down, so $14,909. Bank reconciliation report. Receipts brought in $88,042.79. Payments $130,952.21. 0 adjustments were made in January. Most of the way down, you'll see that outstanding payments, $14,117.35. Our bank balance $943,792.26. Bank balance is the second page, just shows you what each bank has. Outstanding payments, I just looked for the month of January. I have one outstanding check, and they are always slow to cash, which is lifetime financial growth benefits. So that is vision insurance. So $39.91 is the only thing outstanding for January. So yay.
Yay.
I don't think this is, I added the cash flow summary late, so it's kind of out of order. Sometimes we do a different report, but that's where I put it in. So cash flow summary 2026 is an Excel spreadsheet that I put together, and I spent a lot of time on this report in January. It looks ugly right now. I want to point out that we're supposed to have $350,000 in our general fund, and when I took the permanent appropriations with the revenue expenditures, we don't have $350,000. We are negative $99,451. This is a working document. Each month, this number will change. I'm hoping that my expenditures, I estimated high. I took the permanent appropriations. So each month we will look at this.
So it's a worst case scenario.
This, I hope, is the worst case scenario, yes. And keep in mind, we have $115,000 in transfers from the general fund to somewhere else. And we always do that in the last quarter of the year. So that may be something that we don't do, or we just do half, or so there is. And then benefits, of course, next month is going to be a very hot topic. So I wanted to point that out, but I will talk about the January numbers.
Is this kind of what we were talking about last month?
Yeah.
And this paints the picture.
Okay.
This is my artwork.
And, you know, this is the first time that we've actually shown a negative
Yes,
when we are projecting, you know, if we have our $350,000 minimum fund balance, and that's included in here, is if we have that still set aside, you know, we're about $100,000 in the hole. And the $115,000 that we're projected to transfer is really not a lot of money. I mean, that's going into our capital improvements,
Yeah.
which fixes furnaces and,
mhm,
you know, keeps putting off repaving parking lots, and, you know, you can only defer maintenance so long. And it also is technology, and there are things you have to pay. You have to pay for the license renewals for your network equipment. There's some equipment that you just have to replace, even if you do let your laptop go, or your tablet go for year 6, you know, and scrape by with it.
you know
So,
someone that has them?
so, you know, so there are some things, you know, the one place that we have real discretion is in the amount of money we spend on materials.
Yeah, that was my question.
So this is gonna have to be a 1 month at a time, talking
It
about it
is.
each month.
Yes, and
We gotta be proactive.
and you know, you can see, you know, I'll remind you in the announcements that we are already doing things to cut here, cut there, because there's no one place. It has to be reductions in a number of places. But what we do for health insurance is going to have a huge impact on whether we can get rid of a negative number.
Yep, and I appreciate the heads up last month, you know, hey, it's there, it's
Yeah.
coming, we're gonna have a talk eventually, so I do appreciate that, Lynn. And then we just look at it and talk about it each month, so.
So let's just kind of talk about the January numbers, the actual column. So, PLF, we brought in 77,260, I never can read on that little font, 77,284.38. Services provided to other entities, those are the law library things that we receive quarterly, so 7705. You'll see that consistently 4 times throughout the year. We have other brown, and white. Other receipts, we brought in 359.22. Other miscellaneous operating, that is a brand new line that's on this report. This is because we are now bringing in money for our brand new copy machine, fax machine, do it all machine. So instead of the third-party vendor taking care of that, we are now bringing that money in ourselves. So we try to project what we think we'll bring in every month. Obviously in January, we were just rolling it out, so we only brought in $16.85, and I can't even remember what branch that was. Was it you? You. Thank you, Mallory. And so general revenue fund for January was $85,365.45. Payrolls, $80,855.77. Benefits, $22,511. Library materials, $11,095.36. Operating expenditures, $13,633.84. And then a total expenditures, $128,096.54. And so I took the permanent appropriation report that you guys received last week in the goldenrod color, and I tried to get it as close as I could. In years past, we've had more money and I could be a little bit more flexible in those numbers, but I really tried to be very consistent so we could have that middle of the page numbers as consistent as possible. So
I have a
Yes.
stupid question. Just 10-second overview. What's different about the budget this year that's causing this deficit as opposed to last year? Like where is the variance?
we're starting out with less money.
Okay.
Benefits are as high as they've ever been. Salaries are high. Expenditures definitely. So I think besides PLF being slightly lower, I think we're still bringing in the normal amount of money we have in the past. I'm hoping property taxes come in high. But it's definitely the expenditures is what we're spending, and our cash balance was lower than it has been in years past.
Okay.
And we don't have any big grants out there right now.
And I will say that we are like license fee to death, that we've never had to do before. So, you know, like our lockers, we had the grant that paid for that, and the lockers we can't do away with it, because it's a huge.
Yeah.
It's huge for our patrons.
Yeah.
And that's a fee,
Yeah.
a licensing fee that we have to pay, so these are things that we had a grant to help us pay for, and then now we don't.
Does the OLC help with grant writing and reaching out? Cause I'm just wondering, are there big grants out there available, right? That the OLC could potentially help us with?
I don't think OLC necessarily. I think, maybe our regional library would the regional library system would be more doing about that. I think that's really more up to local libraries if they want to partner together to do something, but by and large, there are not grants for libraries for operating funds. They want flashy programs that you then have to sustain
I was just gonna
afterwards on
say.
your own.
Right, after
Does
it
that
goes
sound
out.
familiar?
Yeah.
So it's almost like the classic spending more than we have coming in.
Yeah, it's supplementing versus supplanting.
And,
really.
and Lynn, Sarah, Heather, I would strongly encourage you to loop in your free financial expert. That's what he does at US Bank,
Oh.
big time. And what I'm thinking, maybe it would be beneficial to have a fresh set of eyes that doesn't have any skin in the game. There's no emotion attached. And that's what he does all day long. That kid has been putting a budget together since he's been in high school. And, I'm just recommending that. That's not a bad idea,
Absolutely.
Heather, to reach out and he can tell you.
Yeah.
And more, she's not trying to do year end, so the timing's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah, I mean, besides the programs, there are often smaller grants for materials. So that's kind of low hanging fruit for us that we can, can we get a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there? And if we can use that, to buy library materials rather than our operating money, then
A little
that's
bit,
a
yeah.
way to, to get around this. But it's kind of hit or miss, and, I listen to, and I listen to NPR or whoever else it is, it's, what foundation is sponsoring that at, it's, are these potential ways that we can get, sources of funding that, we have not had in the past, but that said, grant writing does take time. The writing is actually not nearly as bad as the administration and reporting of.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So there's always a balance, and that's why the materials is low hanging fruit, because you buy the stuff, you process it, it's there. It's an easy thing to do that doesn't take a lot of extra time.
It's for real.
It's for
It's
It's
a real
Yeah,
thing.
and I would say, a big chunk is the starting balance. We have been whittling away as we've matched this grant and we've done that thing, and we've, and now we were finally at a place where we felt like we are really doing the level and the quality of things that we should be doing. And now a good, stable support of our funding, part of our funding is going. The costs going up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Scary times.
Yeah.
Next report is cash summary by fund. You'll notice the transfer that you guys approved last month from taking money from the Sardinia Grant Fund, putting it into the Sardinia Library expansion. So that transfer did happen. So kind of the middle of the page, expenditures and transfers out, that is 140,869.24, which is the magic number this evening. You'll see that bank balance, third column from the right, which I've already mentioned. January 2026 expenditure reconciliation report is the next one. This is also a spreadsheet that I put together. Payment listings, I made payments for $32,038.95. You'll see the January 15th payroll and the January 30th payroll. January was for $43,021.65. The 30th was $38,735.49. Board chair retirement, which is the OPERS, was $11,445.97. The board chair Medicare, $1,128.99. Employer health, this was the board share, this was $7,866.28, so that was 80% of the healthcare. Board share for vision was $54.45. Local taxes, you'll notice those numbers are negative because I pay those quarterly. Healthcare insurance out of pocket for the employees was $2,474.86. Employee vision was $46.85 out of pocket. That transfer out of $10,000. Bringing our total expenditures to $140,869.24. Payment listing, pretty straightforward. You'll see a Midwest tape for $8,000. That's Hoopla. It's kind of confusing since it's called something different. Lynn will talk about funding things and how we're cutting Hoopla down too. So we're trying to save money wherever we can. So total payments, $32,038.95, which match the report we just went through. Fund summary report. I've already hit on most of these things. Second to last column on the right, current reserve for encumbrance, that is open POs. So in 2026, we currently have $97,969.99 open in POs. 2025 POs, we still have about $3,300. I would anticipate those closing in February. There's still some book things hanging out there.
Question, for the Hoopla.
Yeah.
For that 8,000, how much does that cover? How long does that cover? Is it just like a bank and then however much it's used?
So we
and then
we send a cash advance.
The one, okay,
so-
I thought that was the one that you were. doing
Yeah,
that with. Okay.
Last year, it was about every 3 months I had to send money, so,
That, at that amount.
but I was sending more,
Okay.
yeah, because we were allowing more users, yeah, and more checkouts.
Yeah, and in January's statistics, I think it was under 1,000 uses in January, so I'm hoping that trend is gonna keep going that way, so that should make our $8,000 last longer.
Good, okay, thank you.
Last report of the night is the revenue status. This is just showing you what money we brought in and what we're anticipating. So you'll notice, four from the top. We're expecting 925,000 for PLF. In January, I brought in 77,284.38. Then there was the balance in it, so that was 8.355%. So you can go through all the funds and see what we're anticipating and what we've already brought in. So we want that to grow. Any questions?
The only other thing we were gonna talk about was the bank balance.
Oh, that's right. We can go back to. So Lynn and I had a conversation about Star, Ohio, and because it accrues so much interest. Probably not this month or even next month, but when we get the property taxes, because we're accruing so much interest on Star, Ohio, we are trying to come up with a number that makes sense for us to keep in people's bank versus moving a balance to Star, Ohio. So we think because the general fund is that we should have 350,000, maybe that's the golden rule for people's bank, maybe 400,000. So we're gonna revisit that in March, bless you, when we receive the property taxes and kind of see where we're at. We definitely can't move any money this month or even, we're in February already, but it's flying, so.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we kind of wanted to run that by you and see if you have any thoughts about it. You know, if you think that's a reasonable point of view, is to use our minimum fund balance of $350,000 as the target for our regular checking account. And then anything else over and above that goes into Star so that we can be getting every last penny of interest income out of it as possible while we're,
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to move money back and forth, but you know, it doesn't take,
It's just.
I
a
was
quick
gonna ask you.
ACH.
if
It's an
Peoples-
ACH. yeah.
Well, and I don't know how Peoples would handle this, but, because we use Star Ohio, obviously the ESC. And, there's an ACH option, like when you go in to do a redemption, you do like a partial redemption, there's an ACH option, but there's also a wire option. And the wire option, we bank with First State. And
Okay.
now I don't know how Peoples would handle it, but First State doesn't charge us.
Oh,
Because we're probably twofold. One, because we're a government entity, and
Yeah.
probably also because we're a large account holder, because I have the consortium, the insurance consortium's money there too. But so I can wire money and get it like same
Okay.
day even.
to be honest,
So,
I've only done Star Ohio a transfer one time, so maybe we did
Yeah.
a wire night. It's been.
yeah, there is an ACH option,
Okay.
but I generally do the wire because it's
Okay.
faster.
Okay.
So I have Peoples probably has an option, but I have an alert set up on our accounts at First State that when the checking account gets below like $250,000, it sends me an email. And then I just go over to Star Ohio and
Oh.
and I just pull money down.
Okay.
Because like our state foundation payments, I have them directly go to Star Ohio. Like, I don't know how, like, do you get like a paper check from like the county auditor, like when the county treasurer, like for property taxes, like,
No, it's direct deposit.
so you could have them direct deposit to Star Ohio. You could just give them that account information and like, so
Okay.
basically the way I do it is I have everything that we have coming in, it goes to Star
Oh,
Ohio.
okay.
And I just let it sit there
Okay.
until the bank balance starts to dwindle and I'm like, oh, pull a little bit down, you know?
So you're doing most of your banking with Star.
Oh,
and then you
yeah,
move over,
yeah,
okay,
and like,
okay.
now obviously we take deposits to
Yeah,
the bank every day, just
right.
because we have like,
Oh,
cash from fingerprints and that kind of
Okay.
thing, and preschool payments and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But, yeah, like our state foundation payments, I have that all set up to go directly to Star Ohio, and then that way I'm getting interest on it like from the day.
okay,
And I honestly just do it for the same reason
Yeah.
you want to, just to try to get as much as possible. I try to diversify into CDs and stuff, but I mean, you're always
Yeah.
gambling when you
I-
do that. You just never know, like,
I'm thinking we probably don't get enough money to just have it directly into Star, because
And
like
you
Lynn,
might not.
like
You
Lynn
might.
mentioned, our PLF that we get monthly is gonna cover payroll, and that's always gonna have to go in people's bank.
Right,
So,
right,
you know,
yeah,
the property taxes we get one or two or three times.
Right.
It maybe just makes sense for me to do wire. or
right,
wires
yeah,
directly
you
to
could just,
Star.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and everybody's comfort level is different. I mean, I have the ESC account set up, I think it's like $150,000
Okay.
is kind of like my threshold of comfort,
Yeah.
like, that's where I
Yeah,
don't like it to get below that. Now, a lot of people would want to keep a lot more than that in there, but I feel like I can pull it down and get it there the same day,
Yeah.
and so I don't,
yeah.
I guess if I get hit by a bus, it'll be a bus. They'll be like, the bank account's overdrawn, I'll be like, sorry, I was trying to make interest money. So,
Any other further questions for Ms. Sarah? No. I need a motion to accept financial and investment reports, approve paid bills, accept donations for January 2026, please.
so moved.
Second. Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April, Amber, and Liz.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the executive director's report. We're going to start with building report and statistics, and we have Heather available,
And Tanya
And-
and Wesley,
Tanya and Weston,
yes.
if anybody has any questions for them.
So they have every opportunity to shout out something from any of their buildings if they wish to, or if
Mhm.
anyone has any questions about what was included on the building report. I thought that the recognition from the Rube Goldberg Institute for the STEAM team that's on Mount Rose, I thought that was really pretty cool, that because of a Facebook posting that we did of one of our activities, the Rube Institute, Goldberg Institute for Innovation and Creativity,
They
responded
commented
to
on
that.
Facebook and said, cool ideas, or I don't know, it was something, we were like, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun with that.
Anything from Wes or Tanya?
So I had, Tanya, how did juvenile court reach out to us, or was that our idea to try and give support?
So that was, that came from the court. So Joni Dotson approached me, and they had been brainstorming some ways to not only get the people that they're working with engaged more in community and take advantage of community resources, but also kind of seeing where we could or where they could match people up with those resources. So it came from that conversation over there, and Joni Dotson approached me and just gave me a list of books to see if we had in the system, and also just getting them to come over and get a library card on their own. And that way they could take advantage of those resources and get them out more in the community in a positive way.
So your success talked about the tutoring at the juvenile court?
Yes. So that has been a huge success. Dan goes over twice a week. We were approached when they had a surplus of juveniles that were really struggling in math. And because of different circumstances, either from tardiness or behavioral issues, that they were missing school, they were falling way behind, and it was almost impossible for them to get caught up. So their time that they are over at the juvenile court, we have a staff member who goes over and works with them. They're there anyway to put in their time. So we brainstormed some ways that we could make that time even more successful for those kids. And we have seen a huge success. Their grades are coming up, and we had a student just recently took a test all on his own and got an A. And
Wow.
and he was so proud of it. So it's really, really working.
That's awesome, Tanya.
I spoke with Judge Val about this. He like kind of set it up, and it was like kids that may come from troubled homes or have struggles, and he's like, some days we're hugging them and some days we're putting a boot in their bottom. So he's like, if they don't show up, we go pick them up. I send a sheriff after them, and then they sit right outside my door and get their work done. And so I think it's great that the library is able to assist them.
Yeah.
But it's more than tutoring. It has a lot of nurturing and a lot of influence, positive influence on these kids, like a lot more than what we think. So
Well, it's showing that someone cares.
yes, and that's what he said.
That's
That was his whole goal.
huge.
Was, hey, we can't let these kids fall through the cracks. I can discipline them and then send them on their way, but what good does it do them when they go back to the home?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, and he was speaking about it, and it was really great. And some of these kids, he's like, they just sit like 10 feet outside my door. So,
And that's Val Lewis.
yeah,
Good guy.
yes.
It sounds like some of you will remember the 40 Assets program. That was really geared towards younger students, but this seems like the same kind of an idea where you provide it's like wraparound services. It's much more than just the discipline or, it's providing good role models. It's good to know that there is consistency in the approach, and because that was, oh my goodness, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, a lot more than that. Yeah, great.
Any other questions for any of the managers? No?
Statistics?
Yep, Ms.
All
Lynn?
right, so statistics, January tends to be a bit slower month. People coming out of the holidays and what have you. A couple of notes just to look at for future. Excuse me, down towards the bottom third of the page where we have collection numbers. We will be buying fewer items, so those number of materials cataloged are going to be lower, not just because we kind of trail off on the buying at the end of the year, but also because we're not going to be purchasing much coming forward. And so I would assume that eventually the number of materials discarded is also going to be settling out and in a little bit lower numbers as well. So those are just a couple of things, and we are starting to work on the annual report for last year, and so that will be coming out with all kinds of other things to look at. And yes, I did catch the fact that January is misspelled at the top of the
All right,
That was my fault.
all right, any
I was on
questions?
vacation when this was written.
Yeah, okay. Any questions on statistics? No? Okay, then
No?
move on to
All
announcements.
right then, so, I was just happy to see that we don't have a lot of new, facilities issues. We're just tying up some old loose ends, except for one little item at Fayetteville. That's listed there. The funding, committee engagement report was included. Lots of people didn't have meetings in the winter months, or at least in December and January. If there's anybody has any questions, be happy to answer those about the community engagement. Funding initiatives, a couple of new things. Letter D, we got another grant from United Way to help with our literacy kits, so that those materials will be funded for the next year, for fall into next spring. So we're set again for another cycle of story time enrichment. And Heather put together the application for summer outreach funding. We've done that a couple of years. We got funding initially when we had the Department of Education grant, and we've been able to supplement it through the state library's LSTA grant program. So do we know when they're going to be making a decision?
No. The deadline is the 22nd.
Yeah, it had to
So-
be turned in before the end of this month, so maybe mid-March.
Yeah, I think it's usually middle of the month.
And then the last group of items are the things that we, have just ongoing, have identified already as ways to cut down on some of our expenses. And next month we will have the insurance to look at. So that will be a big item. And as you've seen already, we transitioned to the new copy, print, fax, scan service to Woodhull. Most things seem to be going pretty well. A couple branches are having some little, who was it who
The
said
machines
something
are-
about the coin machines are like ET phoning home?
Brooke.
Little Brooke, yeah, some little.
It's signaling.
Stuff. It's not, yeah, they have to be unplugged, plug back in. So Heather is contacting them to say, hey, did we get some lemons, or you just need to reprogram some of this? And so, I would hope that maybe by the end of March, we'll have, some stability in that service and be able to see what actually it might be bringing in for extra funds. And then we've been working on the whole cybersecurity thing, and one piece of that is the OPCI, and that will include training for all of our staff. And Wes has developed a plan for all of our staff members to get their training, and so we're going to be starting to implement that soon as well. And then we do have a staff in service schedule for the 13th of March. We'll be doing things like Heather and I will be talking about the state of the library and some of the things we talk about here about cost savings, staffing changes. We're going to be talking about marketing, the strategic plan, and there will be a whole afternoon session on soft skills, emotional awareness, and how that impacts our service to others. And Becky Cropper and her team are coming in to do some training for us.
Great topic.
Oh, and it's always a
topic.
great time with Becky and her crew on. Just gonna say.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, committee reports. No committees met. Then we're moving on to the biggie, which is the strategic plan work session. We have the implementation plan and the mission statement.
And I did give you a copy in purple of what you had looked at last month, just as a reminder, that the plan itself with the vision and the core values. And I believe, you had asked about timeline and implementation, and so I gave you what Andrew, our consultant, had provided to us, actually breaking it out by year and the main things that he recommended be done in each of those years. And I asked our strategic planning team to go through that and indicate the things that they thought were most important to get started on immediately, and then what might be that next tier, whether it's 6 to 12 months out from the first batch. Because as Andrew would say to us, you know, he from the outside can make recommendations, but we're the ones who are really feeling all the day-to-day and know some of the other things that are impacting our ability to implement things. And so that's why I was really interested in seeing what the strategic planning team members thought. I also asked the managers to give me input on that. And now I want board members to tell me, you know, from each of those, you know, years that he gave us, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, what do you think are the top 3 things that we really need to do right now? And then what are the next 3 things? And I have no problem going around the table and telling and asking you, you know, what are your top 3, like, do we have to do right now out of all these things that are on this list? So that we can get the board's perspective and then, you know, really know what we're going to do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I had looked through this, like the list that's on the back,
Yes.
like it says the immediate and then the 6 to 12 months, is that because they pulled from here, right?
Yes.
So when they looked, they thought, like, for one, conduct the comprehensive facilities assessment.
Mhm.
For me, that one seems like super important. And I know initially it's on here for 2028, but then they put that in the 6 to 12 months, right? They felt like it was more important. I just want to make sure I'm understanding
You
it right.
absolutely are. Yes.
So they basically were looking at this timeline and they pulled out the ones they felt like needed to be addressed
Yes.
sooner, even if they were later,
Yes.
right? Is that how I'm
is
understanding it
exactly-
right?
yep,
Okay.
you understand, yeah.
Okay, because when I looked at it, the facilities one, which, I mean, I agreed with a lot of the ones that they had picked as being, I felt like very important, but then I also felt like the facilities right now, I know that's causing issues with numbers and different other things with programs and things like that. So I didn't know I wanted to make sure I was understanding that when they pulled it here, that they also felt like it was more important to hit earlier than 2028. So yes,
And,
that's
and,
kind
and
of,
also what I did on that back page was I put in parentheses the number of people,
okay,
individuals who respond to those things. And so the order of them is what was,
Okay.
identified the most often, because obviously you have more than 3 in each of those, because they came up with more than 3, because they all have different perspectives, but yes. So if you look at that last page, the team itself, the top 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs had 3 or 4 people all identifying. So all of those they felt were very important. And that's what I highlighted in here in green were those 4 top ones. And then the same with the 6 to 12 months, what was identified most frequently, and it was facilities, the outreach activities, marketing plan, and technology plan.
and then will he go back based on that and based on like our feedback too, and then rearrange the timeline part of it?
He could do it or we could do it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I want to do is,
Okay.
I've got staff input, I got the manager's input,
Mhm.
and I want the board, I debated about telling you what they came up with, but what do you think that could have a very different perspective than our staff have about what is the most important to start with?
So I will kick off the party. I'm gonna go from the perspective, which kind of falls in line with the negative 99,000. Is, what is the current affairs of our country, of our community? It's not the best right now from all perspectives, which would be economic, job market,
Morale.
morale, foreign affairs. I mean, it's just not good right now. I don't see that changing in the next couple months. So in my opinion, our focus should be on community. And our focus should be on providing a safe space, providing a community space and that outreach, because I think that's what, I mean, and I'm talking about just 2026. You know, obviously 2027 is different, 2028, but that's my opinion on where the current focus should be. Yeah, yes, yes.
I'm gonna take a different approach.
That's why I want to hear it all, yep.
So anytime you have a funding shortage, the first thing you do is you look inside and say, how can we be more lean? I think it's imperative to do a staffing plan review to see where there are redundancies, where we could potentially merge position roles. I don't know. I'm not trying to get rid of anybody, but the state, unfortunately, that's in a business, you have to do that. So to me, that would be number one. And then we kind of talked about this in the strategic plan, right? How are we using our facilities to maximize with the money that we have? Does that mean we need to change hours? You know, do we need to close a branch for a day? And again, that ties with the staffing plan too. If you can get the staff to be more integrative and not just segregated into each branch, right? Just thinking out loud, are there more opportunities there? So those are my two big ones.
And Heather, you mentioned morale. Okay, what perspective are you talking about from morale?
Well, you were talking community.
Correct.
So, and staff morale, everybody is feeling it right now. Like this sense of stress, like, I don't know anybody that is not feeling some kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Whether it's financial or it's, spiritual or it's emotional, because there's just so much coming at them from and right here, if you're in Mount Orr, holy cow. Like, it's
What a hotbed.
And that's, so I'm gonna go with a soft pushback on Tina,
Yes.
because you're right, first of all, so I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I just think, does it make sense that now is the time to be looking at staffing, cutting? You know, we're looking at ways to save money in other things. I just don't know if the timing is right for something like that, even though it makes 100% sense. If this was a completely different year with a different vibe, that's a no-brainer.
Or corporate America, you know, we're not corporate America.
Cause, and I look at it
Yeah.
too, like with what you're saying, Mark, I do see outreach as being important, obviously. But you have to know your strengths of your staff, and again, your building facilities and the funds that you have available to, in order to provide that outreach later.
Right.
Like the marketing to bring the people in, like, I feel like those things are important, but again, you have to know those strengths of your staff members, and can people be shuffled or moved or different roles, or it's just mainly the staff. I'm not saying, or not staff, the strengths. I'm not saying get rid of anybody, you know, but then again, figuring out that funding. But again, trying to figure out how to make, I don't know, the buildings work more, getting the marketing, which we talked about before, getting more people in, even though I know our buildings are kind of packed when we have people in. But I feel like that lends itself to being able to do more outreach, to pull more people in. The libraries are needed right now in our community, big time. I mean, morale, for sure, yeah. I mean, the stress right now with everything going on in our village is just ridiculous. I'm trying to figure out if I need to put my house up for sale and get out. Yeah. So, I mean, the library could definitely be a place for people to come and get away from the stress for a little while. But yet I still feel like that staffing piece is really important, and the funding obviously to be able to provide the stuff inside. So I don't know, I guess I see outreach as being a little bit further down the list. Yes, very important, but yeah, I feel like the inside has to be functioning well to provide the outreach part, the outside part. I don't know.
No,
I don't know if that
all good
makes
points, all good
sense.
points. I would say,
You're saying go get them first?
no,
and
no,
then-
if we go down that path of assessing staff, which I agree is important, my concern there is when we're looking at all
I was gonna say, mine stopped there in the middle of that. I don't know if yours did.
Yes, I can't see anything now.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess it's just our meeting now.
All right, I'm gonna log out and try to log back in.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
And, and I also think my wife works for a nonprofit in Bethel. So I know her staff is not there as a breadwinner. You know, her staff's there because they want time away from the house or whatever, which is a little bit different here. So I just assumed they were saying, and then even in my job, I deal with nonprofits all the time and money's tight.
I think it's also kind of a difference between like when we, so we have the private sector and we have the public sector and then we have nonprofit and like really this is really governmental, it's not United Way, it's not the Red Cross, it's not true nonprofit. It's really the government sector, which I think does in some ways tend to draw a different demographic of people. You know what I mean? Like, I think there are a lot of people working in true nonprofits that are very passion driven. You know, it is a passion project. They are there because they truly believe in the cause and all of that. That is not to say that the people here at the library don't believe in the cause. I don't want to imply that at all. But it's probably not a secret that a lot of people are here because it does offer, public retirement and decent benefits. And I mean, there are things about it. I mean, I'm not afraid to tell you, I was attracted to working in government. I work in school.